everyone. Today we're going to learn how to solve equations with fractions. We're going to learn three different methods, all which will work, and you're going to pick your favorite method in order to solve for a given variable. So to solve with fractions, there's many different ways. We can keep the fractions and use fraction rules like add with common denominators, and you combine the numerators. Or we can also learn a rule that's called fraction busting, where we eliminate the fractions as quick as we can, so we just deal with equations with integer values. So the three methods we're going to learn are, let's use fractions for as long as we need and then solve at the end when fractions are going to disappear, or the second and third methods, which eliminate the fractions a little bit quicker. Now, the first one we're going to start with is, what happens if we use fractions the whole time? So if we want to add fractions, we need to make common denominators. So common denominator of 3, 4, and 6 is 12. So what I would need to do is I need to multiply the first fraction by 3 over 3, the second one by 4 over 4, and the last fraction by 2 over 2 to get them all to have common denominators. So 6 multiplications here, and I still have fractions. Now the nice thing about once I have common denominators is I can add the numerators, so I can add 8x and 10. And if the denominators are all the same, I don't need to worry about them anymore. So I can rewrite this equation without the denominators. So 3x equals 8x plus 10. Now this is a multi-step equation where I have variables on both sides. So I have to move the variables, and I'm going to move them to the left by subtracting 8x on both sides. And then I have to get x alone, so I'm going to undo the multiplication by dividing by -5 on both sides. And I wind up with x equals -2. So this one, I kept the fractions for a little bit. Eventually they go away, and I solve my equation. Now the next method we're going to talk about is, how can we eliminate fractions one step quicker? And this is called the multiply by all the denominators method, where we multiply all of the denominators together and figure out what that is. So in this case, it's 72. 4 times 3 times 6 is 72. And then we multiply that into just the numerators. Now we wind up with 72x over 4, and then 2 times 72 is 144, and 5 times 72 is 360. And this looks really, really complicated at this stage. But the next part is going to help us a lot. If you use this multiply by denominators method, each of these fractions is always going to be an integer. So 72 divided by 4, 144 divided by 3, and 360 divided by 6. All are going to be integers. In this case, they're whole numbers because they're positive. Now we have another equation, multi-step equation, that you know how to solve. And in this case, you solve it, you get x equals -2. Now the last method I'm going to talk about is multiplying by the LCM. So I don't want to multiply by a really big number. I want to find the smallest number that'll get the job done. So the LCM of 3, 4, and 6 is 12. So I only need to multiply the numerators by 12 in this case. And then if I divide, I will get integer values. So now I deal with small numbers. This method allows me to have to use the calculator less. And still, when I solve this, I get x equals -2. So any of these three methods work. The last one uses the smallest numbers, probably the easiest to do without a calculator. The second one still gets rid of the fractions. And the first method works as well, but keeps the fractions a little bit longer. So this is how we solve equations if they have fractions in them.